Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone had a fun and safe homecoming, made good choices. Now we're back at it, regular routine, and we're talking about social pressures this week. This is part of our look at responsible decision making. We're skipping around a little bit. We'll circle back to some relationship skills, but this ties in pretty closely to some of the other things we've been looking at. We've been talking about how our past experiences can impact the way that we think and feel, the things that we believe, even just our preferences. Last week we talked a lot about our inherent biases. And a lot of times those biases are pretty innocuous. They're not hurting anything. They just have to do with our preferences, our favorite team, our favorite brand, our favorite type of car, whatever it is. Those usually aren't hurting anybody. It becomes dangerous when those things become those isms, when we separate out other people, group people up, and think that people who are different than us are less than us. That's when it becomes dangerous. And social pressures tie in really closely with that. Because a lot of the social norms and social pressures that impact us, again, are pretty innocuous, meaning they're not doing any harm. They're just things that impact the way we dress, the way we talk. Style is a good example of that, like fashion styles. You can look back through an old yearbook and you can see these style trends or watch old movies. And sometimes it's something like pretty pronounced, like a trend that changes. And a lot of times it's very little things and things that circle back around. I talked about last week, like when I was in high school or going to college, I talked about I had my hair spiked up and the frosted tips and the shell necklace. All that stuff would look kind of silly now, but at the time it was popular. Even things like our pants. When I was in high school, it was kind of the baggier style of pants, like a baggier cargo pant. Kind of the late 90s, like even things like Jinkos became kind of popular. Jinkos were these pants that had these huge baggy legs, and they became popular for a while and then kind of fade away. But even if you weren't into like the Jinko specifically, it was just a baggier style of clothing than is considered popular today. Like the joggers that I wear pretty much every day would have looked ridiculous when I was in school. Even something like socks. I still think it's funny when most of you wear those white kind of high socks that come part way up your shin, because when I was in school, that was like dad stuff, like somebody's dad wears the high like tube socks. It was For us, it was short socks like the no-show socks, then and black socks preferably. I still wear black no-show low cut socks. It's kind of, some of those things you hold on to because you liked them when you were a kid and they seem popular, but then also you kind of change with the trends. Even like men's suits. Okay, a business suit has been kind of the formal attire for men for a long time, but those change. When I was a kid, I remember they were very boxy, and some of them when you had like the shoulder pads and they were kind of big and baggy. Now they're more like tailored, more form fit. So things like that, all those things impact us. Even if you decide to operate in opposition to a trend, you're still reacting to it. And we see it all over the place. You maybe think like, wow, we don't have any trends. And they're hard, it's hard to see as you're in the moment like what the trend is. But even stuff like wearing Crocs and Hey Dudes and the different water bottles, there seems to be a different brand of water bottle that's popular every few months. Social media trends has really brought this to light because there's constantly some new trend of things that people are doing and posting on TikTok, and it fades away really, really quickly. I can think of ones from even in my time that I've been teaching social media trends, things like planking, where people would literally just lie down flat on things. That was a popular social media trend for a while and disappeared. There was the one, I'm trying to think of the song where it would show everybody in the Harlem Shake. It would show everybody like, sitting in a classroom or something, and then it would cut, and it would be like this beat drop on this song called the Harlem Shake, and then it would be all these people like dancing and going crazy. That was a huge social media trend. You maybe never even heard of some of these things. That wasn't that long ago, but these trends change very, very quickly. Now, again, that's not really that big of a deal most of the time. All of us are impacted by trends, especially when we're young, when we're your age, because as a teenager, you kind of have your finger on the pulse of what's new, what's popular, you're being exposed to those things. It's kind of great, from my opinion. Great when you get a little older and you kind of stop caring about those things. Like, there's not really much desire to try to keep up with the new trends. A lot of times I don't know what people are talking about when they're talking about those things, and that's a nice feeling. But it is important that we recognize the outside pressures that do impact us. Those things can be good as well. Culture, an established culture, is all about social norms. And a culture can be positive or it can be negative. So, positive culture, I would like to think for the most part here at St. Ansgar, we have a positive culture. But that might be something like, hey, the expectation of athletes going to the weight room. That's a cultural thing, that's a social norm. And I think it's a positive thing. Obviously, I'm biased. But there can be a lot of negative social pressures too. There can be negative cultural things where if people are behaving in a negative way and that's accepted, that becomes the norm, whether we really agree with that behavior or not. Like, if you were to ask us about our values and the things we care about, it may not be in line with that culture. But the culture of a place, of a team, of a program, of a classroom, those things do impact us. So it's important to be clear and honest about the social pressures, social norms that impact our lives. That's what I want you to think about this week. I want you to try to identify some social pressures that do impact the way you behave, the way that you think. They can be little things, simple things, or it could be bigger cultural things. All right, until next time, much love.